Well, another day, another fad. It certainly seems that way in the world of wellness anyway. So, I've been working in this industry for over 3 decades now, and there's been a lot of trends that have come and gone over the years for sure. And I guess cutting through that was really one of my main motivations to start Earle Wellbeing 10 years ago. To cut through the nonsense, provide evidence-based information, particularly for midlife women, so that we can all make better choices about our health and our well-being, especially as we age. But I haven't always got it right. And I had to learn the hard way. Anyway, to save you the trouble, these are some of the worst mistakes I think that I've made over the years for my health. And I guess, I made them so you don't have to. Well, in at number 1, it has to be eating less meat and fewer eggs. Well, I know this is going to upset a few vegetarians and not to mention vegans, but there really is no one size fits all when it comes to wellness, especially to diet. And this was one lifestyle change that absolutely did not suit me. So I started to experiment with reducing my meat and my egg intake and dairy around 30 years ago. It might surprise you to learn that for over a year, I was actually a teetotal macrobiotic vegan. Yeah, quite extreme. I would live on miso soup, brown rice, and seaweed. Stuff like that, bit of tofu perhaps. Things like meat, eggs, and dairy are absolutely not on the menu for a macrobiotic diet. It's all about yin and yang. Sounds absolutely mad to me now. I don't actually know how I did it for so long, to be honest with you. The truth is that I became really quite unwell. I lost my energy. I generally felt more anxious and less strong, both physically and mentally. I think when we lose physical strength, we can also use mental resilience as well. Now, in hindsight, I realised just how much of the good stuff, fat-soluble vitamins, for example, I was cutting out. And it really makes me cringe. And it's little wonder that I was struggling to function on such a restrictive regime. So I started to eat fish and eggs again. I was still wary of red meat back then, but I began to feel so much better. And developments in science, and I guess my ongoing research, have really helped me understand why my body is not suited to a plant-based lifestyle. And I've spoken about nutrigenomic testing in the past, and one of the tests that I took actually revealed to me that my body is really poor at converting retinol, and this is something that affects a significant number of us. So retinol is the animal-based version of vitamin A, and that's veggies often cite beta-carotene as the plant-based version of vitamin A, which is true, but they often fail to mention that many of us lack the genetic capability to convert beta-carotene, plant-based form, into retinol, vitamin A in retinol form. And the retinol form is so important for healthy eyes and brains. And I've got several plant-based friends who complain, amongst other things, such as hair loss, that they have eyesight issues too, which I suspect are related to this simple fact. So now meat, lots of eggs, talking about on Instagram this week, and dairy, especially the fermented kinds such as live yogurt and kefir, are most definitely in. Okay, so mistake number 2, buying oat milk. Ugh. Now this is a big bugbear of mine. Not only is it expensive, but it's highly processed. It's marketed to us as a healthy alternative to milk, but I have not found this to be true. Plant milks, essentially waters, really, juices, especially those we buy from a supermarket, are ultra-processed products. And yes, while they do often contain added vitamins and minerals, which they need to because otherwise they are nutritionally pretty poor, these nutrients that are added are usually synthetic, and our bodies find it harder to absorb synthetic nutrients that are added artificially than those naturally occurring in real foods and animal milk. So another reason why I no longer drink oat milk is that it's highly likely to contain glyphosate pesticide residues. And we know that glyphosate disrupts our gut health. Oat milk can also send our blood sugar levels soaring. When we compare the glycemic index, for example, of oat milk to real milk, oat milk has a glycemic index of 60, compared with whole milk, which is somewhere between 35 to 40. Plus, real milk, of course, is full of healthy fats, fat-soluble vitamins, and it contains vitamins and minerals like naturally available calcium that our bodies can actually easily absorb. So yes, I definitely stick to buying real milk, whole milk, not even semi-skimmed. And I'm also a fan of raw milk. I mean, I just wish that this was more easily available to us all. Do you drink raw milk? Let me know. Drop me a comment. Okay, so this brings me neatly on to mistake number 3, and that's going low fat. Oh yeah, I think many of us have probably fallen into this trap throughout our lifetimes, especially if, like me, you're in your 60s, because it's a historical narrative, isn't it? You know, becoming obsessive with being as thin as we could be, obsessing over every calorie and gram of fat. Low fat is the way to go. What a disservice we've been doing to ourselves. Our bodies need healthy, unprocessed fats, the kind that we find naturally occurring in everyday foods, like olive oil, butter, lard. So I think it's important to know where this fear around fat came from. The infamous fat graph, published in 1948 by psychologist and statistician Ansel Keys. This was key to this. He basically proposed that saturated fat was the cause of heart disease, and he based his findings on a graph that appeared to show that men who ate the most saturated fat suffered the greatest incidence of heart disease. But we now know that he cherry-picked his data and ignored the countries that actually showed high levels of saturated fat intake and lowered heart disease. Lies, damn lies and statistics. You've got to be so careful. What he also failed to point out was the strong correlation with sugar consumption and heart disease. And why was that, I hear you ask? Well, of course, we later discovered that he was paid by the sugar industry at the time. Curious that. Well, when you think about it historically, it seems inconceivable that the natural fats that have nourished us through hundreds, well, thousands of years, naturally sustaining foods such as olive and coconut oils, butter, lard, ghee, beef dripping, all the rest, could suddenly turn against us, make us sick. Why would these so suddenly become so damaging to our health in favour of highly processed, artificially manufactured, industrially produced foods and seed oils? So let's wake up a bit here and apply some critical thinking. Did our ancestors die in huge numbers due to heart disease and obesity? No, they did not. Obviously, they died of other things, but heart disease and obesity? No, even if they were long-lived. Finally, this brings me to mistake number 4 for me. Ignoring weightlifting in the gym and skipping that for low-impact cardio classes and the like. I think this idea kind of really ties back into the fear of fat. You know, back in the day, going to the gym, everything used to be about cardio. You know, trying to burn as much fat as possible. And there was little thought really as to whether or not this was actually making us stronger. Nobody talked about strength or muscle tone. It was all about appearances, whether we could fit into a certain dress size, shrink down, or achieve a number on the scale. And of course, that number might go up if you put on more muscle. But now I realise just how crucial strength training and lifting weights especially truly is, especially for midlife women. Lifting weights, simple dumbbells or kettlebells, you know, not the circus style strongman iron bars, simple little dumbbells. It's one of the very best ways for women especially to preserve muscle mass and skeletal muscle as we age. So for the average woman, lifting a few weights strengthens the joints, it prevents muscle loss, and it builds better bone health. Yeah, think osteoporosis. Truth be told, if we don't lift weights, we will age faster. Sarcopenia, loss of muscle, happens at the rate of around 1% or more each year after the age of 30. Gosh, I'm 60, nearly 61. That's a staggering amount, a third, nearly. Loss of estrogen during perimenopause and beyond accelerates this loss. Now, losing our muscle strength obviously leaves us weaker as we age, meaning that we're more likely to suffer a physical injury as well as worse metabolic health. And weightlifting can help reverse this trend. Just a few simple dumbbells, or even just some squats and some lunges and some push-ups. So there you go, the worst mistakes I have made for my health, hopefully correcting them now. What about you? What do you look back on nowadays and think, I can't believe I did that? Why did no one tell me? I would really love to hear in the comments. Let's keep this conversation going. As ever, do like and subscribe to this video channel. Share it with your friends if you like this. Do you know, it's just so important to get this information out, particularly for midlife women who often don't hear this stuff. And then, of course, don't forget, you can find out all about it and more in my new book, A Better Second Half. Thank you for putting this at #1 on the Sunday Times bestseller list. That is an amazing thing. So thank you. I'll put a link below so that you can order your copy if you would like to. If you have already ordered it, maybe you've ordered it on Amazon, do leave me a review. Love to hear what you have to say and think about it. But until the next time we chat, go very well, stay strong, avoid the mistakes. Chat to you next time. Bye-bye.